The first set of directions on tonight's homework asks us to find the slope of each line. So, well, the first thing we need to know is, what is this slope? Well, slope is the steepness of a line, and we use the variable m to represent slope. The reason we use m is because s looks too much like a 5, and when we think of steepness, we think of mountains, and mountains are steep, and steepness is slope, so they came up with the letter m to represent slope. Well, from there, let's talk a little bit more about what slope is. When we think of steepness, we're concerned more with how high we have to go. So if I think of this fraction bar, and the slope is a fraction, we are going to have to find the change in y direction. And we always think of that first when we think of climbing a mountain. We're more concerned with how we think of how steep it is. Well, steepness is slope, so when we think about how steep it is, we think of going uphill, or going down really fast. And so that would be the change in the y direction. So that's why that's always on top. And then we have the change in the x direction on the bottom. And so that's what slope is. Slope is steepness. It's a ratio of two numbers. It's the change in the y direction over the change in the x direction. Another common phrase you might have heard before is rise over run. And when we think of rise, we think of up, but we can also fall too. So rise basically signifies the y direction. Run, we think of going horizontal, back and forth, and that represents the x direction. So let's take a look at these different examples. So in the first set of problems, you will see graphs that are already made up for us. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find the slope of the line. So let's start by writing the variable m for slope. And then you can already set up your fraction. So slope is a fraction, and we're going to find the change of y first. So let's start with the left-hand point for now. And we'll go to that left point, and we'll go up to the elevation of the next point. So that we'll count the spaces. So we're starting at this point here, and we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So up 4 means that it's going to represent a positive 4. So up is positive because the y values going up from the origin are positive. Then from that point we need to go over. So we're going over, and we count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we went to the right 6 spaces. So when we think of right, well, to the right are positive numbers. So that is a positive 6. And so all we do from there is just reduce the fraction. We take out the common factor of 2, and we have a slope of 2/3. Well, we could have gone the other way. We can always think of slope in either direction. We can also go down and then to the left. So if we go down, we're going down, and change the color here. We're going down 4 spaces, the same number of spaces that we went up, but when we go down, we think of that as a negative number, so that would be -4. And then if we have to go to the left, we have to go to the left 6 spaces to get back to that other point. So left means minus. You can see how to the left are negative numbers, so -6. Either way you do it, a negative over negative makes a positive, so it still is 2/3. So no matter which way you do it, you still get the same answer, 2/3. Either one would be correct. So again, you can go either way. I prefer to go from the left to the right because that's the way I read. So that's the way I'll do this one here. So looking at this slope, I'll start with the variable m. And m equals, now I'm going, starting from the left-hand point, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So down 4. So when we think of down, we think of negative numbers. You can see these negative numbers here are below the origin. So we think of down meaning negative. So down 4. Now we have to go to the right, and we count the spaces. 1, 2. So there we went right 2 spaces. And so right means positive. So it's going to be a positive 2. And then we just reduce the fractions. So we can take out the common factor of 2, but we just have one negative. So that means our answer is going to stay negative. And so the slope is going to be negative 2 over 1. And we can write the answer as that, negative 2 over 1, or we could just write it as negative 2. So either answer would be correct. Now there's another situation, and that is, here we have a flat line, or a horizontal line. And so when we look at the left-hand point, we typically have to go up or down. Well, here, we don't go up. We don't go down. We're staying right on that same line, the same elevation. So how many spaces did we go up? How many spaces did we go down? Well, the number 0 would represent that. We went 0 spaces up, 0 spaces down. So if you don't go up or down, the rise is 0. So now down below the fraction is the run, how many spaces we go in the x direction. So we count the spaces. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 spaces. And anytime we have 0 in the numerator, we can do that division because, see, if I set up a division problem, 5 goes into 0 times, and that makes 0, and we have a completed division problem. So if 0 is on top of the fraction, then our slope would just be 0. So m equals 0. So we have 0 slope when we have a horizontal line. So we'll write that down. 0 slope when we have a horizontal line. So that's a big concept there that we should remember. 0 slope means that horizontal line. Well, here we have something a little different. This time we have a vertical line. So let's see what happens here. We'll start with the variable m again, which stands for mountain. Mountains have steepness, and steepness is slope. So let's see what we do here. We don't have a left-hand point. They're just one on top of the other. So we'll start with this one here, and we'll work our way down. So we went down 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I went down 3. So I'll put negative 3. Now, I don't go left. I don't go right. That means that number is 0. Well, this is a problem. We cannot divide 0 into a number. So if you can't do that, that means we don't have a slope. And so this is a problem where we say it's undefined. And so let's just go over again why we can't do that division. If we look at this, if we put 3 or negative 3 in here, 0 times any number here, we could put any number in here, is just going to equal 0. And when we do that subtraction, we don't get anywhere. We still have negative 3. So you could put any number here, and we still don't get an answer. That's why we can't divide by 0. And that's a big concept that you've got to remember. Sometimes people think this answer is 0, but it's not. We can divide a number into 0 to get 0, but we can't divide by 0. So what we say is the slope is undefined. We have undefined slope. And so when we have a vertical line, and that's the big concept here, vertical line means we have undefined slope. And these are the 4 different types of slopes that we're going to end up dealing with. First of all, I guess there's only 3 types. This one is undefined, so this one's really doesn't have slope. But we have 3 different types of lines with different types of slopes, and then one without a slope. And so vertical lines, undefined slope or no slope. Horizontal lines have 0 slope, where the line that goes from left to right that's increasing, both y and x are increasing, we have positive slope. And then a line that goes downhill from left to right, so the y values decrease as x values get bigger, we have negative slope. So the next part, we will be finding slope given 2 points.